It started with a silent Friday. A toddler never arrived at daycare. A mother didn't show up to work. Her phone? Ringing. Unanswered. By noon, her friends were texting. By night, they were calling. But Yasemin Uyar, 24 years old, reliable, loving, alive, was gone. She wasn't the type to vanish. And the moment her son was reported missing, everything changed. An Amber Alert lit up phones across New Jersey. 2-year-old Sebastian Rios, taken, believed to be with Tyler Rios, his father, Yasemin's ex-boyfriend, a man with a violent past, a record of abuse, and a pattern. What started as concern for a toddler ended with the mother's body in the woods, because she tried to leave, and he couldn't handle that. Here's what most people miss. Yasemin wasn't just missing, she was hunted. She was following every safety rule she was told. Set boundaries, stay low, keep people informed, try to co-parent safely, but none of it stopped him, because while she made an escape plan, he made a murder plan. He had one goal: control. And when she tried to take her life back, he took it away. Yasemin didn't fail, the system did. If stories like this shake you, don't scroll. Subscribe. These aren't just tragedies. They're warnings, and someone watching this right now might be in her shoes. Before her name became a headline, Yasemin was someone's everything. She was a daughter, a sister, a friend who remembered birthdays, a mom who knew every word to her son's favorite cartoon. She had dreams, not flashy ones, but real ones. A safe home, a stable job, a good school for Sebastian. She was building a life around love and routine. She worked hard. She showed up. She wasn't dramatic. She wasn't reckless. She wasn't weak. So, how did a woman like that become a missing person report? That's the question no one asks loud enough. Because we get caught up in the crime, the timeline, the arrest, and we forget the girl who used to dance in the kitchen, who made people laugh when they were having a hard day, who once posted, "All I want is peace for me and my son." Why don't we fight for that version of her? Why do we only remember women once they're gone? Yasemin was more than what he did. To her, she had a life, and she was trying to protect it. She tried to raise her son in peace. She tried to stay out of courtrooms and drama. She just wanted to live quietly. But when someone decides your life is theirs to control, quiet isn't enough. The world didn't protect her. Now, we have to remember her not as a case, but as a woman who mattered. Tyler Rios is convicted of domestic violence. He didn't hide his anger. He didn't fake stability. He showed the signs, and still, no one stopped him. He had a record, and Yasemin knew it, but like many survivors, she hoped he would change. She wanted her son to have a father. She wanted peace more than conflict. She gave him chances even when he hadn't earned them. At first, the control came quietly. A raised voice here, a slammed door there. Where are you? Who are you with? It didn't start with bruises. It started with fear. That's what people miss. Abuse doesn't explode. It builds. By the time she realized how bad it was, she was already managing his moods like landmines, already explaining away his rage, already trying to protect her son from scenes he should never see. And still, the system called it a domestic dispute, not a pattern. Not a risk, not a ticking clock. Why do we keep waiting for bruises before we take someone seriously? He had every red flag on file: convictions, police reports, anger issues, but nothing stopped him from getting close. If we have proof that someone is dangerous, why do we keep giving them chances to prove it again? Yasemin was living in fear, and the record said she had every reason to. But paper doesn't protect women, action does. And in her case, it came too late. Yasemin was done. She'd been holding it all together for too long, hiding stress, smiling through anxiety, keeping things calm for her son. But behind closed doors, she was planning. July 2021, she made it clear. The co-parenting wasn't working. The fear was too much. She needed space. She wanted peace. She had taken all she could take. She started changing her routines, moving differently. She had help. She was trying to be smart. But Tyler was watching. He sensed it. He felt her pulling away for real. And instead of letting go, He planned how to make sure she never got away. People always ask, why didn't she leave sooner? Here's the truth: she did. She was in the middle of leaving. But sometimes leaving is what makes them snap. She wasn't weak. She was brave. She tried to protect her son. She tried to protect herself. And still, it wasn't enough. Because, when someone is obsessed with control, your boundaries feel like threats. He didn't just want her back. He wanted her gone. Yasemin did everything she was told. Reported him, kept records, stayed quiet, got support. And still, he found a way. What does that say about how we protect women? When following all the rules still gets you killed, maybe it's the rules that need to change. When silence screamed, the morning started like any other. But by a.m., daycare workers were calling. Sebastian never showed up. Then her job called. No word from Yasemin. By noon, her mom was calling non-stop. Her best friend said something felt off. Yasemin never went off the grid. By evening, panic. She wasn't answering. She wasn't posting. She wasn't home. She was gone. The Amber Alert came fast. Authorities feared the worst. Tyler Rios, a known abuser, likely armed, possibly dangerous, traveling with a toddler. It was no longer a missing person case. It was a manhunt. But Yasemin was already dead. While people were refreshing news updates, while police were tracing phones and issuing alerts, she was already in the woods. What hurts most? She was gone before anyone even knew she was in danger. How loud does a woman have to go missing before people take her seriously? Why does it take silence to finally listen? If someone had connected the dots sooner, if the system had responded faster, would she have survived? By the time her son was found alive, the worst had already happened. The world was too late, and silence had already done its damage. They found him in Tennessee, over 800 miles from where she vanished. Tyler Rios was pulled over near Monterey. Inside the car was 2-year-old Sebastian alive, but Yasemin wasn't there. Police searched nearby woods, and hours later, they found her body wrapped, hidden, left alone in the dirt. He took her across state lines, killed her, dumped her, then kept driving with their son in the car. How does someone do that? What did Sebastian see? What did he hear? He was too young to explain it, but old enough to know something was wrong. Imagine riding for hours next to the man who took your mother's life. What does that do to a child? How do you undo that memory? When police announced she was gone, a wave of grief and rage hit everyone who knew her, because she hadn't just been murdered, she'd been erased, taken, dumped like trash, while her baby sat in the back seat. Why did he spare the child but not the woman who gave him life? Some say it's mercy, but control doesn't look like mercy. He wanted Yasemin to disappear, and for days she had. Only when he got caught did the world learn where she really was, buried under leaves. As if her story could be covered up too. Sebastian survived. But what kind of survival is this? He lost the one person who loved him unconditionally. He was dragged across states by the man who took her. At 2 years old, he couldn't say what happened. But trauma doesn't need language. It settles in the body. In the flinching, in the silence, in the tears that come from nowhere. What did he witness? Did he hear her screams? Was he there when she died? We may never know, but we do know this. Trauma at that age doesn't just fade. It shapes everything. He'll grow up asking questions no child should have to ask. Why did daddy hurt mommy? Where did she go? Why didn't anyone stop it? How do you answer that? His life will now be filled with pictures of a mother he can barely remember, videos of a voice he might someday forget, and every birthday, every holiday, will carry the shadow of a story he didn't ask for. The damage didn't end when Tyler was arrested. It began again every time Sebastian asks about her, every time someone hesitates before answering, every time he remembers even a little. This is what domestic violence does. It doesn't just take one life. It breaks everyone left behind, especially the smallest ones. They charged him with everything: murder, kidnapping, desecration of human remains, interference with custody. Every charge felt like a word trying to name what he did, but no sentence can bring back what he took. In April 2022, Tyler Rios pled guilty, and just like that it was over. A plea deal, a confession, a sentence, 25 to life. Some called it justice, others called it a shortcut. He admitted he killed her, dumped her, fled with their child, and in exchange, he got a timeline, 25 years. With a chance for parole. Yasemin won't get parole. Her family doesn't get relief. Just a number. Is that all a woman's life is worth? How do you weigh murder against time served? What message does it send to the next man like him? That control only costs you a few decades? That if you confess, you get credit for cooperation? Where's the credit for every night Yasemin spent afraid? Where's the justice for a little boy who lost his entire world? A deal may close the case, but it doesn't fix what broke. It doesn't teach anything. It doesn't protect the next Yasemin. It just moves on, and her name becomes another file in another drawer. Filed under victim, domestic, closed. But none of this feels closed. Not to her family, not to her son, not to anyone watching, thinking, she did everything right, and this still happened. That's not justice. That's survival without peace. She followed every rule. She got help. She told people. She stayed alert. She tried to co-parent. She didn't provoke. She didn't escalate. She tried to leave the right way. But what is the right way when someone is tracking your every move? When leaving is what makes them snap. We tell women to leave, but we never ask what happens after. She left, and she still died. So what do we do with that? We keep saying, why didn't she go sooner? The better question is, why wasn't she protected when she did? It's not a failure to stay, it's a failure to protect. Why do we keep giving violent men the benefit of the doubt but expect women to carry all the risk? She played by the book. She took every step. And still, she ended up in the woods, while her killer drove away. This isn't just a tragedy, it's a warning. Yasemin's death wasn't sudden. It followed a path, a predictable one. We've seen it before. We'll see it again unless the system stops waiting for bruises. Unless we treat domestic violence as the threat it truly is. Unless we understand. Leaving isn't always the end of danger. Sometimes, it's the start of it. After Yasemin's murder, the Yucca Union County made a statement. One sentence stood out. Most domestic violence homicides happen when the victim tries to leave. Let that sink in. Not when she stays. Not when she fights back. But when she finally gets the courage to go. The most dangerous time is the moment she says, I'm done. So why do we keep acting like leaving is the answer? Why do we shame women who stay without giving them real tools to survive if they go? Yasemin tried to leave. She followed the advice. She got help. And still, she was killed. The Yucca has seen it before. They've been sounding the alarm for years. But we only seem to care once a body is found. Why is that? Why do we treat domestic violence like a private issue until it's a headline? Why don't we fund shelters like we fund police? Why don't we teach boys that love isn't control? Why don't we tell men, when she says no, the answer is no? Yasemin isn't the only one. There are thousands of women living this reality right now, trying to leave, trying to survive. How many more have to die before we change how we respond? The signs were there. The system knew the risks. So why wasn't she saved? The vigils came quickly. Candles, posters, her smile blown up on boards held by sobbing friends. Strangers showed up. The community grieved, but grieving isn't justice. People said, she was so brave. She was, they said. She didn't deserve this. She didn't. But why does it take death for people to believe women? Why do we only speak her name once she's gone? Where was this outrage when she was alive? When she was scared? When she was planning her exit quietly because she knew how dangerous it was? Where were the voices then? Yasemin wasn't just a name. She was a mother, a fighter, a woman trying to rewrite her story. And the system made sure she never got to finish it. She did everything right. She planned. She stayed quiet. She asked for help, she protected her child, and she still didn't make it out. That's the part that breaks us. Because it means anyone could be next. It means being careful isn't always enough. It means the danger isn't just in bad luck. It's in a system that lets violent men slip through over and over again. Yasemin didn't fail. We did. And if that truth makes you uncomfortable, it should. Yasemin didn't fail. We did. She tried to leave, to build a life free from fear, to protect her son, to find peace, but the system wasn't ready. It didn't catch her when she fell. We tell women to run, to escape, to survive, but we don't tell men to change. We don't teach them to respect, to let go. We don't build a world where leaving is safe. And so, Yasemin's story ends with the body in the woods and a child left behind. How many more will die before we act? How many more voices will be silenced? Her life was stolen, but her story isn't over. It's a call, a warning, a demand for change. Because every woman deserves to live without fear, every child deserves a mother's love, and every abuser deserves to be stopped before it's too late. This isn't just a story, it's a lesson, and it's on us to learn it. If you hear Yasemin's voice in this story, if it shakes you, if it moves you, don't scroll past. Subscribe, share, speak up, because these stories matter, and the next one might be someone you love.